raise that bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear, and we've got a returning guest, one of my good buddies, Jean-Gilles Larocque, Coach JG, Coach Rocco, Coach Larocque, whatever you want to call him, he doesn't care. But up in Sudbury, Ontario, which is where I'm from, obviously, and great town, good spot. I'm gonna say, well, first of all, how's everything going for you up there, JG? How's life in the Rock right now?
Currently, what are we today? They got a calendar here.
Say mid-March.
19th. Yeah, we're currently on lockdown right now. We're in gray as of Monday, I think it was, or last Friday for a couple of weeks, with numbers increasing locally and in schools and stuff like that. So, but like everything else, man, like hopefully everybody, we're grinding this thing out and adjusting, which I'm hoping everyone's doing. I know mental health is a huge thing right now, but you know, we got to grind through this, support each other through it. That's kind of how we're looking at it anyways.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I think, you know, you see it a lot in the small towns right now too, where, and this is no offense to you personally, I'm going to stereotype here, but I think up north, they got a little bit snooty this summer where it's like, we have no cases, we're fine. Stay out of here, Toronto, stay out of here, Southern Ontario. I'm in Southern Ontario, so I can carve you guys a little bit. And then the COVID, man, once it gets in somewhere, it's crazy, right? Because you guys were good for most of it. And then all of a sudden, you know what I mean? There's a little bit of pop off in cases and everything gets shut down again. So it's that yin and yang of going back and forth to shut down, open. That's just, I mean, it's a pain.
Yeah. I don't know how I don't know. I just find adjusting, man, being, I don't know. That's it. Just like in sports, I find so much, and I can't speak to other professions or other things, but I just find sports has just prepared us for this stuff, man. I've said it how many times, and I still agree 1,000,000%. Sports have literally prepared us for these types of situations where for some of us, we're just kind of locked in with our family. So we're working within a team now, you're together all the time, so on and so forth, just like a team. You figure things out, you agree on some things, you disagree with some things. I think all families are like that, but you're literally in a small quarters together, like living in a dorm, when you're at Alabama Huntsville, those types of things. So just, I don't know, man, it's just the ups and downs of it. Things are going to go good one day. They're not going to go good the next day. You just learn to adapt and keep your head up and keep grinding. That's the way I look at it anyways.
No, I totally agree. I think it's exactly that. It sucks, but I mean, some people have dealt with this so much, have had so many, worse situations with people getting sick or dying and things like that. So obviously that it's crazy, but you're right, for the day-to-day people that maybe haven't been directly affected with it yet, as far as everyone's affected, but I mean infected, I should say, as far as having sickness with it. You're grinding it out. You're trying to dodge it. You're trying to, do what you can to keep your family safe and stuff. And I think to your point, I think a lot of people have figured out that they really like hanging out with their family. A lot of people have figured out they don't love hanging out with their family. And a lot of people, I think, have figured out how to hang out with their family and how to be, around. Cause it's weird, man, especially if you have mom, dad working from home, kids are homeschooling right now. We're doing videos, you know what I mean? It's a grind, man. Your house becomes crazy small with 4 or 5 people there all the time.
I'm just, not that I'm worried. I'm just wondering now, like, people are just going to get to the point they're over it. Like, people must have a tolerance somewhere where some people have already passed it, wherever that gauge is for people. But with as this progresses, and we got to keep all this. I'm worried for people just in general that are not equipped to deal with this type of stuff. Like, again, we're not the government, you and I are reinventing the wheel or anything like that. I'm just worried about people, how they're going to deal with it. They're just snapping. People are on edge. I feel like that anyways. People are a lot more on edge right now. And, maybe they're taking it out on you. It has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with their situation. So we're learning a little more resilience as business owners, as educators, even as parents, right? Like you just said, being cooped up in the house and, you're just seeing each other every single minute, and it's do your homework and it's go to bed at this time and it's this and it's that. It just becomes a lot, man.
And it's okay to talk about this stuff. You know what I mean? And I think, any parent that's been at home through this whole thing or has a family of kids, like, man, my fuse was not super long to begin with, and it's gotten a lot shorter, and you take it out on, you're taking it out on your wife a bit, or you take it out on your kids a bit, or your wife takes it out on you a little bit. And you're right. It's not a personal thing. It's just, we're all a little bit stressed about this. You know what I mean? You're bending and tweaking things as you go, and you're trying to grind it out. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, man, I mercy. Like, I'm done. Like, let's go. Let's get this thing going,
I see as that bird on Angry Birds, man, that has a little fuse on the top of his head. That's what I was picturing the whole time.
Totally. Yeah. Now how have you found it with, I know, you're teaching obviously in home now because you guys are on lockdown and everyone's doing virtual, but what was it like when you guys went back to school after the Christmas break? And, what was it like with the kids? Like, are you noticing a little bit of difference with the kids, or the kids just happy to be back? And it was, what was all that like?
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that because, so actually we went, so last Friday, it's been a week today. So we told the kids on Friday at schools, like they announced it Thursday locally. So Friday we're in class, we're like, hey, let's make sure Google Classroom, whatever platform you're using, is ready to go. And, I'm checking up on the kids, so on and so forth. I'm just like, okay, so we're in lockdown. Rewind a year ago when you told kids, hey man, we're going to extend the March break. And it was just like fireworks. It was amazing. Not one kid in that classroom on last Friday said, yes. They were just like, oh my God, here we go again. Right. Yeah. So it's funny how a year kind of changes things where kids don't look at, they see the value, I think, of school. They see the value of being around their peers, being around other people. They really get a taste of it now. So it's kind of might've helped them mature, I guess, in a little bit of a sense too. But it was just different to see, like I said, within a year, the kids being like super jacked at being at home, to like, you kidding me right now? I finally get to come back to school with tons of limitations. Don't get me wrong, but at least they got something, like some type of schedule and something in their lives.
Yeah, I know. I totally, I saw it when the kids came back, like after the first lockdown. It kind of went into the summer, right? So you saw them in the off season, you saw them on the playing baseball, things like that. So it was a little bit different. They were excited to be back, no doubt. But when we came back after this, last shutdown, it was really, really fun to see how excited they were to be back, like be back in school, be back on the ice. I'm sure we'll be back with you, and for those who don't know, Jean-Gilles owns a baseball academy up in Sudbury, Ontario, where he's deals with a lot of elite athletes, number one, but also a lot of baseball players and a lot of players that are playing for him and practicing and training. And it was nice to see that excitement of them being back, having a bit of a schedule again, getting back to activities, because let's be honest, man, these lockdowns, they really do affect the kids more than anything. All their sports, all their organized stuff's taken away, whether it's soccer, baseball, hockey, whatever that is, they can't do any of it. So if you don't have parents that are active or getting you out there and going for walks, especially at young ages, I mean, you could easily spend the whole day inside, on video games or doing whatever, so.
And that was a conversation when we got back from, so it was Christmas to like mid-February, I guess. We were locked down, and that first practice, I remember the first in-person practice, like mid-February-ish. And that was a conversation. It was like, hey man, see how it was taken away from you? Like, remember that feeling. It might happen again, but remember that feeling. We don't take things for granted, man. Like when you're here, you're all in for whatever it is, the 30 minutes, the 45 minutes, whatever the time it is. Like, so it was good. It's such great teaching points, I find, even with the kids too, right? And I can honestly swear, man, like the kids just got at it. Like when they were there for the time, they got at it. When they left, it was like, thanks, coach. They get it, I think, now, right? So I think it might have sped up the maturing process. And I'm kind of curious a little bit now too, when kids come out of this and whatever sport they're going to play, like, I think them, like, it was kind of like this, right? Like the house league kid and the AAA kid and so on and so forth. Like, I think people think, oh, that might've did this. I think it might be doing this a little bit more now, just for the fact, like some kids, it might've just sparked them. Like they're going bananas, basically. They need to do something. Others just said, I'm out.
Yeah.
So I think the thread might even get a little further.
I was going to ask you too, like when your guys' game came back and girls came back, what did you notice with them? Because one thing I noticed here is your real elite kids, to your point, like that gap might separate from elite to house league and make that gap even bigger, where the elite are even getting more elite. Because one thing I noticed was when kids were off, some kids came back like they didn't miss a beat. They worked out all the time. They ate right. They were great. We had other kids come back. They were puking 50 minutes into the first session, and it wasn't a hard session. It was just, they didn't do anything, right? So you had, and they were considered elite. They were playing the AAA ball or AAA hockey with us. But, and so it's interesting to see the kids that really wanted it. They really kept it going. They were stick handling, they were shooting, they were hitting balls, I'm sure, throwing balls. They were doing stuff to help their game, and some of them weren't at all. So what did you notice kind of with baseball? Was it kind of the same thing?
100%, man, 100%. And remember some kids, like, it's like someone tells me, there's 3 frogs on a log and one of them says they're going to jump off. How many are left? And people are like, well, 2. It's like, no, he said he was going to do it. Doesn't mean he did it. And that's the whole thing, right? It doesn't mean these kids went, like, we have workouts online. We have, like, we're doing like Zoom 6 days a week. We're like, death by Zoom. But I think we've learned I don't know what wave we are anymore, or all this stuff, but
Yeah.
we've learned through it. So now, like, we literally have mental performance. We have somebody else coming in. We've shortened things. We've spiced up things. I just learned how to do Kahoots yesterday. So I'm doing Kahoot with the kids for a different way of presenting, what I'm trying to present. We're working on a manual together with just the catchers, a program just with the pitchers. So you learn to adapt with it. But sorry, to get back to your point, sorry, I got a little
That's all right. No, it's great.
rabbit hole there. But it was just, like summer gas. We're doing dynamic warm up. Like, we're going back and forth like 3, and there's some kids are huffing and puffing. I was like, holy smokes, man. But again, can you get on them just for the fact, like, hey man, you need to be doing something, but everyone's handling this different because, like it or not, I don't know, this might come across wrong or not, but you're a product of your environment, right? If your environment's not, pushing you a little bit to do something, or, hey, get outside, or, hit the bag or hit the pucks for whatever, a little bit of time, but they need that internal fire also. It can't just be mom and dad pushing the whole time. They got to have that little fire inside of them. And I just hope, man, some of them realize, like, that window is just like, and I feel bad because some of the guys, for hockey or baseball, whatever it is, some guys lost their senior year, or they lost their draft, or whatever the case may be, like that. So their windows are just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So, like, you really got to capitalize on the time that you are alone or at home. Because when it's go time, like I keep telling our guys, May 1st is opening day for us, right? Actually, we're in London, May 1st for opening weekend.
Okay, cool.
So I'm like, the league does not say, oh, Sudbury, you're in lockdown for 2 weeks. We're going to move the league back to mid-May so you guys can get ready. The whole province is doing something different. Different things are happening. So I'm like really, really adding with the guys. I said, like, it's go time. May 1st is go time. Green, red, whatever the case may be. We'll be out of something by then. We'll be able to do something by then. But what you're doing these next couple of weeks will affect if, like, can you even play May 1st? How's your arm? How's your conditioning? Are you mentally prepared? So that's stuff I keep pounding on our guys for anyways.
No, I think it's great. And a lot of, you said something there that I think really, really hits home as far as, like, they're a product of their environment. And some of these kids, unfortunately, are stuck where they're stuck. If you have a mom and dad that are working full time and aren't around much, and that is what it is. If you have parents that are collecting EI or on welfare and don't care, it sucks. But I think as players get older, and as parents, or as people or young athletes get older, it's up to them to reach out to people like you or to me, like, hey, I need help here. And I know that's easier said than done. And it's up to, I think, you and I and people like us to reach out to those kids and, like, hey, how are things going? Like those Zoom calls, like, yeah, death by Zoom is happening everywhere because it sucks. I'd way rather be doing this in person with you, but at the same time, it is what it is. But having those Zoom calls, asking those questions. Hey, if anyone needs anything, send me a private message. I'll if you need gear, I'll get you gear. If you need, I know in the first lockdown, we gave out a bunch of our gear to guys just so they had little gyms at home.
And that's the thing. And you're the type of guy, I believe I'm the same type of person, man. If I know you need something, I'm there. I'll take my shirt off my back, but I need to know. You got to talk to me, man. You know what I mean? Money's a little tight now for this situation, or I can't get to B, like, I know you, how you are, man. You do the same thing. Like, if a kid needs something, just if you knew, you would do it. And, or if you couldn't do it, you'd find a way, or you'd figure it out, basically. But I'm finding more of myself now, like, texting guys from the team, right? Like, so I check in the Zoom, they're not there. I'm like, hey man, just checking in. How you doing? How's everything going? Which I think it's helped me in my coaching like crazy, is basically I've made things a little more personal, that, like, somebody notices when you're not there, where, you know what I mean? You're just grinding, like, hey, Billy's not here today. You figure, like, next thing you know, he's been missed 2 practices, and it's been like, you're a week into stuff, and you got so much on your mind. And now I've kind of able, for me anyways, from my perspective, kind of step back a little bit more and make things a little bit more personal. And I should have done that way before in my coaching career, but I'm finding a lot more now because I think they need it even more now. But I don't think it's anything that's going to change. It's only helped me more, I think, as a person, as a coach moving forward, to, like, they're people, man. They all have their different needs and situations, and it's not easy, but that's why we love it. You know what I mean? If it was easy, everybody would be doing what we're doing. So that's the part of the challenge that I love.
No, I think even that touching base, man, I think is huge. Like, I started trying to make a more conscious effort to touch base with some of the players that we work with in the off season. Cause a lot of times they go away and play, and they're gone away to play, and you just kind of like, oh, we'll see you next year. And you don't really keep in touch. And I sent a text out to one of the guys that trains with us, and he's worked for us. Awesome guy. He's playing pro. And I sent him a text and just said, hey, how's it going? Like, a couple weeks after he'd left. Hey, how's the drive? How's everything going? How are things down there? And he texted me back. He's like, and the first thing he said was like, hey, Blazer, thanks a lot for the text, man. That means a lot. And then he told me what it was like. And I didn't think about it. I'm like, just touching base with sometimes people, just saying, hey, how you doing, bud? No, there's no hidden agenda. I didn't want anything from him, just seeing how he's doing. And genuinely, because I cared, he's a good dude. I like, but I'm trying to make so I guess my advice to anybody out there is, man, you're just sitting down looking at Instagram or Twitter, take 5 minutes and just text 3 people that you haven't texted in a while, whether it's a buddy, a grandma, an aunt, uncle, whoever, but hey, how are you doing? And it goes a long way, man. It might open up a bit of dialogue with them. They may feel good just getting a text from you because they haven't heard from you for a while. So little things like that, I think, go a long way.
I've had guys that played for me 2-3 years ago. I still touch base, man. I don't know. For me, you're part of the family. At the end of the day, your career could be over with me, let's say, but it's not over. I had a kid, his mom had cancer, so I text his mom every once in a while how she's doing. Had another kid, his dad had a heart attack last year, so I'm checking in. How's the dad? Like, I have his number, I have her number, so you kind of still check in. Like, I don't know, man. I think that might be the difference in us. Like, we have businesses, but it's I don't know, man. Maybe it's bad business. I don't think it's bad business because it's just the way we are as human beings, how we're wired is just like, you give a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really care how his mom's doing, how everything's going. His dad, how is he recovering from the heart attack, so on and so forth. And just keep touching base. And you're exactly right. And I've tried that with some of our guys too. We like some accountability partners. And I'll say, Kate, you got to text 2-3 guys from the team this week just to say hi. And it's weird at the beginning because like I'll text once in a while. I was like, hey man, sorry I missed this, that. And I was like, whoa. I'm just checking in to see how you're doing. Like, I don't care if you missed this, that, and the other. I'm just trying to check in how you're doing. I got kids that dropped out of our program a couple of years ago. I texted, it's funny, we're talking about this. I texted him yesterday, man, how's school going? He's like, a little bit older, still in high school type of thing. I was like, you gonna graduate? He goes, yeah, man, I just need this 1 credit left. I was like, hey man, keep it up. Keep handing your stuff in, wherever the case may be. The kid doesn't play for me anymore, but I care about people as human beings, which is a lot more important than wins and losses, in my opinion anyways. Totally
agree. Yeah, 100%. I reconnected with some guys from school, a while ago now. And we've always kind of, they're the type of guys just like you and I, JG, where if I haven't seen you in a year or two, you and I talk quite a bit, but I'd be like just picking up where we left off, and so, but he went through a tough time, got sick and, was kind of scared for a bit in the hospital for a while. And, but got out, he's doing really well and everything's going well, but I'll text him probably once a month and just like random, like, hey buddy, how's it going? How you feeling, man? How's the fam? And just by his response, you can tell like it means something to him, obviously. And I love hearing from him, but I'm not doing it because I feel like I have to. I do it because I genuinely care. He's an awesome dude. He's a good buddy of mine. And yeah, we don't hang out every day or talk every day, but it's just those little gestures. And I mean, you've had it, I've had it, where you get a random text once in a while, and you and I do it to each other every once in a while. Like, hey, how are things going? And then we start a little dialogue going back and forth for a day or two, and so, yeah, I think it's important.
It's funny you're saying that too, because it's like when I text you sometimes too, it's like I need to unwind or I need to vent with somebody. So you only get some of those shitty texts. But on the same time, it's funny on a player's perspective. Again, we've got some of our guys that are out in the U.S. playing collegigiate baseball now. Baseball's going back in college in the U.S. And it's like you only get a text sometimes when they need something, but like when shit's hit the fan.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 0-4. I had a bad game, wherever the case may be, man. Like, it like throw me a lifeline, but you don't hear anything when things are going good. But
yeah,
that's cool too, man. But that's good because they know. And I've wanted to be that person, and I don't know if that's whatever the case may be. It's like when shit hits the fan, like it's like a fire alarm. You know what I mean? When there's a fire, you break the alarm, you pull. I want to be that pull thing for our players, basically, right? So that's why I'm always reading, educating, surrounding myself with good people like yourself, to like be armed with types of things when shit starts coming this way, in the sense of I'm 100% cool with it for people to say, hey man, I'm having a rough time, wherever the case may be. Because the easy stuff's easy. You're having a great day, you're talking about it, it's like you're on the beach.
Yeah.
But like that stuff's easy. Like that's it's just like when shit hits the fan, like, you're away from home, money's tight, you're away from home, you're having a bad game, you're away from home, you've had an injury, so you're not playing that much. The coach is overlooking you, all those types of stuff that you and I have been through, basically, that we can kind of share with those guys and say, just keep grinding, try this, do that. So I love that stuff.
And for any players out there that are listening that I don't really want to bug JG, he's got 2 kids and wife and work and or I don't want to bug Blazer, he's busy, he's got kids, whatever. Like, no man, bug us. Like I encourage that. I love it. And I've had, just like you, many conversations with players that are going through bad times, and man, I'd way rather them reach out to me in bad times than never reaching out, and yeah, like sometimes you just need to vent to somebody. You can trust them. There's no judgment. Maybe they've been there, they've been in your shoes before. Like, man, reach out for that. Cause that can be something that makes you feel a lot better. airing it out, knowing you're not alone, you know, whether it's going through a tough time with a girlfriend or sport or school or parents or whatever, you know, but finding someone that you can reach out to that maybe has some experience in it or that just isn't going to judge you, just going to listen to you, you know?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. You hit the nail on the head with that one for sure.
I wanted to ask you too.
Actually, you hit it out of the park.
Maybe yeah, there you go. Little baseball. Well, I mean, I was quite the baseball player, but no, I'm just kidding. I wanted to ask you about this too. So this has come up a little bit in the last couple of days, and this has been an issue that's gone on tons, and I've talked about it a lot. But is it as prevalent in baseball where you'll have a hitter or a pitcher that's going to 1, 2, or 3 different pitching coaches or hitting coaches, or is it pretty specific? Tongue's not working. That players will like stay with one, because in hockey, man, we've got kids in one day that'll go to like 3 different skates with 3 different skill coaches, and it baffles my mind because I'm like, what are you doing? Go to one. Doesn't have to be us. I don't care. Go to one and stick with them if you feel like they're going to give you the right thing that you need. Why are you going to 3 different people getting 3 different messages? Like, it's scrambled eggs to me, and I don't understand it, especially for kids that want to be elite. I don't think Sidney Crosby goes to 14 different skating coaches. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think these high-end, you know, athletes go to 5 different strength coaches. You know what I mean? So what's it like in baseball for you? I know Sudbury's a little bit different as far as there's probably not a lot of guys that are experts in the field like yourself, but what's it like even if you talk to guys down south or in bigger baseball markets?
Same thing, man. Like, different sports, same story. And what I like using in that terminology and that stuff is basically, if you don't stand for something, you'll stand for anything, right? Like, you got to get to the point if you're taking your kid to wherever the case may be, you're going to draw a line in the sand and you're going to give is that opportunity to make your kid better. Stop. Like, I can appreciate maybe a little bit of a buffet, you know, at the start, because you're just not sure about people, so on and so forth. But you got to get to the point, man, you draw a line somewhere and you're like, I'm all in, basically. Because if not, man, it just, oh my God, he's telling me to do this. Like, think about, like, I'm sure a parent's trying to do the right thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure the parent's trying to do the right thing. However, think about the kid, man. You know, like, if I'm thinking about if I'm a hitter and I've had 3 different hitting coaches, one's telling me to do this, the other one's telling me to do that. All I'm thinking about is thinking about mechanics, and I'm not playing anymore. And then no wonder you're taking them to 3 different people, because all the kid has these 50 things in his mind, basically, like, instead of just enjoying the game and going out to perform, basically. He's just hearing so many different voices. Same thing applies to pitching, wherever the case may be. But yeah, man, that applies to, I'll say baseball. I'm sure it's all sports, the same thing, but you just find somebody and then kind of hook on and have faith. And you know what? You might be wrong to be with that person. You might be, but learn from it, man. Like, I don't know. Who said that to me? They're like toe dippers, basically. Like, jump in the water. Don't be a toe dipper. Like, jump in.
Yes. No, for sure. And I think to your point about, okay, maybe you're with the wrong person. Man, if you're an educated person or you can speak one language and write your name, you should be able to tell if that person's like sleazy, not good at what they do. If you're watching a player on the ice or a player doing batting practice and the coach is on his phone on the side or not giving correction or not stopping them to, you know, then there's an issue there. You know what I mean? So be educated on who you're seeking out. But to your point, like, try a couple of, I love the buffet analysis. Try a couple of the meals out. Try a couple of the skill coaches out. See what you like. See who your son or daughter kind of connects with, who they like. And then when you're watching a session, you don't have to watch them all, but when you're watching, pay attention to what's going on. You know, if it's always jokey and halfway through a skill session, they're play fighting in the corner, you know, or the coach is taking more shots than your kid has, there's issues there, you know, and maybe that's not the right spot for you, you know, but like, make educated decisions, because especially as kids get more elite, having a good skills coach around you, whether it's a batting coach, a pitching coach, a shooting coach, a skating coach, a skills coach, that's important. You're building a people around your son or daughter. And if they're going to see 3 or 4 different people, number one, you're running around, you're spending a lot of money for no reason. Man, less is more sometimes. Like, get quality over quantity, and it's such a big thing.
All right, I'm opening the can. I'm gonna reverse this
Let's
interview.
do it.
This one.
Let's
So
hear it.
how do you go about it? So, like, let's say somebody has a resume. Like, you know, if I'm going through the internet looking at some stuff, I'm blank. I'm moving to London, and my kid wants to get into hockey, or is, you know, pretty high level of hockey. I'm moving into London. I'm looking, like, these 3 dudes have like pretty legit resumes. Okay. One played in the O and did this. This guy played in the NHL and blah. Like, I'm like, holy smokes. I go do, like, you know, kind of take care of the buffet part. What what separates after? At what point do you say like your resume doesn't mean jack? Basically, like this looks good on paper, but what you're selling my kid, like you said, you're taking more shots than my kid is. Like, how do you separate that, and how do you treat that, or how does that go about?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what happens to a lot of parents too is they get caught up with the Joneses. They're going to see X coach and they like him, he's great, but then your neighbor or your teammates like, oh, you got to come and see this guy. This guy's awesome. And then, okay, I got to try him out, and then go try him out. Oh, you want to work on skating? Got to go see this person. And like, okay, well, so then all of a sudden now you got 4 different people you're going to see because you want to keep up with everybody. You don't want to get sidetracked, right? So I think to your point, how do you seek them out? I think number one, if you're new coming into a situation or you got a young kid who's coming up in hockey, they got a lot of time to find a skills coach. So don't even worry about that. But if you're 9, 10, 11, 12 and your kid's good and they're elite and they want to get into, more skill development and more, kind of honing their game, I think 2 things. You try out some different skill coaches and you watch for how they are on the ice. Are they engaged in a session? Are they actually are they bringing, if I show up to a session with a kid with 3 pylons and a little bucket of pucks and my cones, really, you don't have anything else? You don't have a hockey stick you can throw out just to add a little bit of obstacles? You know what I mean? And we see this, man. We see this, the bare minimum. There could be 2 kids on the ice. You have a coach in the corner blowing a whistle. Get the whistle out of your mouth. Talk to the kids, man. You can say go. You don't have to blow a whistle. So there's things like that I would look for. How engaged is a coach? Is he like the session? Is he here? You can tell right away when somebody shows up for a paycheck or someone shows up because they genuinely like it.
Yes.
I love what I do. There's days I hate coming to the rink. There's days I hate going to the office, right? But when I'm on the ice with a player, I love it. That's the best part of my day. I may hate coming to the rink. I may hate leaving the rink. I may hate answering emails, and overall I do love it. Don't get me wrong. But when I'm on the ice physically with a kid, I love it. I genuinely enjoy it. And if their coach is not engaged, that's the biggest thing. The other thing too is if you've done 4 or 5 different sessions with the coach and you're seeing a lot of the same things on the ice, same drills, there's a big red flag. The other thing is if you're doing privates or a small group, 3, 4 players with a coach, is there a plan? What are you guys working on? Is that communicated to you as a parent? Hey, I see this as a whole. I see his shooting as a whole. I see her skating. We're going to really focus on these 2 areas in the next couple of weeks and we'll try to get that better. I mean, you don't go to a financial advisor and be like, here's all my money. I'll see you in 10, 15 years. Hopefully, you want to have some idea of are you low risk? Are you high risk? You know what I mean? So we just throw our kids at these people and be like, all right, make sure he skates better. And so it's you got to do some research. You got to be engaged in it. You got to make sure that you know what you're looking for, what your kid wants, and then communicate that. And I think the other thing is the personality of that person. You're going to have some hockey coaches, soccer coaches, baseball coaches that are arrogant. They got the idea. They got the sauce. You may like that. You may want that. You're going to have some other ones that are very open and want feedback and want to have that dialogue with you. And maybe you want that. So figuring out what you want and then, trying to basically court a couple of them to see what you like and if they're going to be a good fit.
I'm going to go back to the part you're talking about with some days, just man, how am I going to do this? Get through the day. And some days you're jacked up and it's the best thing ever. And there's a baseball pitcher, John Lester, and people and he's probably going to be a future, I don't know if he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's legit. So they're asking how do you get through your season? He's like, let's say if I have 100 games, he goes 10% of the games I feel unreal. 10% of the games I feel like absolute shit. He goes, the 80% is figuring it out. I'm
yeah.
I'm not going to have my A game. 80% of the time I do not have my A game. But that's the fun part is figuring out how can I win this with my B game, my C game, figure it out, grinding it out, so on and so forth. You think any Hall of Famer in any sport felt amazing every single game? BS, man. BS. But that's what keeps good people going, man. They just figure it out.
Yeah.
You find that spark. And for you, it's getting on the ice for some of the kids. You find that spark.
And I think for young players and parents especially, that's a really big message as far as we are not awesome every day. You're not a good dad every day. I'm not a good husband every day. I'm not a good worker every day. I have bad days. Kids are going to have bad days. They're kids. They're going to have more bad days than good days. And that's okay, right? As long as they're putting a foot forward, as long as they're working a little bit, as long as they're, they're attempting, they're trying, but they're not going to be good every day. And we need to understand that, and work with that. And hearing stories of, NHLers or Hall of Famers in the MLB, no, I wasn't good every day. I went on big slumps. I was trash at certain times. I was going to quit. I think everybody who's played any elite sport, yourself, myself, NHL guys, we've all wanted to quit the game at some point. We've all wanted to pack it in because we thought we sucked or we had a bad gig or a coach wanted to trade us or coach wasn't playing us. We all went through that, but no one really talks about it. Oh, my time playing hockey was unbelievable. Oh, my baseball career was awesome. I had so many great experiences. Yeah, but it also sucked at times. Like I wanted to
Oh
sell my
yeah.
hockey equipment at times, and that's okay to talk about it, but we don't really talk about it a lot.
And that, yeah, but those are the things you remember, man. I don't know. It's looking back, but it sucks in the trenches. 100% sucks in the trenches when you really look in the mirror. And actually, what's funny? Yesterday, Man in the Glass, Man in the Mirror.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
speech,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
poem.
Yeah.
They talked about that yesterday because remember from our last
Yeah.
podcast, they asked me about that yesterday. And sorry, I'm coming back to that. I was like, you're gonna look back in the mirror eventually, and when you think about all those different, the grind has just made you that much of a stronger person. I know you went through some stuff personally, when you're away from home and family stuff, so on and so forth. And so did I. And yet, like, it sucked and it still sucks to this day and so on and so forth. But like, it just, to me now, just made me such a stronger and better person for it. But it's like now looking back with I think the ammunition I have as a person and the reading and I think I'm a little more mature than I was then. Basically, like you embrace the suck basically because you just know it's going to make you better. You know what I mean? Like, getting into a fight, you're going to get punched in the face and it's going to hurt, but you're like, it's better getting punched in the face than getting stabbed in the chest. You know what I mean? Like the hurt doesn't hurt as much basically if you know what you're kind of getting into. So it's just arming yourself. But yeah, there's a lot of great stories to be able to tell how, the adversity we had to go through.
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point of going through tough times and then understanding as you get older that those tough times are going to help mold who you are. So almost embrace the shit times, which sounds crazy, but yeah, you went through some family stuff with your father, myself as well. And I look back on some of those experiences, and like you said, those are probably some of the most impactful experiences I've had in my life. And I really, as I got older, really appreciated what it did to me. At the time, it sucked. I wanted to shut her down. I wanted to quit. I wanted to go home. But when I battled through it and a couple of years later look back on it, I'm like, man, had I not gone through that, had I not battled through that, it would have changed who I am. And now you're right. When things like this pandemic, like businesses shut down for 3-4 months, like people are freaking out. And, I get a lot of calls from people like, oh man, how's it going? How's business? I'm like, we'll be fine. Like, we'll be all right. I got a good wife. I got good kids. I got great people that I work with. Like, we're going to be okay. We're going to be fine. We're going to figure it out. And if I have to go clean gutters and clean eavesdrops, I'll do that. Like whatever we got to do to make it work, we'll make it work. But we're going to be okay. And I think I wouldn't have been able to say that if I didn't have a lot of like everyone's got a story. But, if I didn't, and I think a lot of times as parents, we tend to try to help our kids through those bad times too much. We try to make it so much easier for them. Like let them battle through it a little bit. Let them, they got cut from a team. You're not good enough. You weren't good enough. I know it sucks to hear that, but you weren't good enough. You don't practice. You never hit a ball. So if you want to make that team, then start practicing. You don't have to be hard on it, but like be truthful. Like tell the truth. Tell them exactly what it is. And those hard times, they're going to look back on it one day if it's explained to them properly and they go through it the right way. They're going to be so much better and more equipped when they go through more hard times, which we all know we're going to go through more hard times.
And like you're talking about, just keep building resilience. That's what you're doing at the end of the day. You just keep building some resilience because you're going to need it because life's going to punch you in the face. So it's happening. If it hasn't happened, it's going to happen. If it didn't happen tomorrow, it'll probably happen on Sunday. So you just got to be ready to go for it. And you just got to build that resilience. And and that, I think that's what those things in life have presented us. And again, I said at the beginning of the show was basically athletes have been built to deal with COVID, to be honest with you, man. It's just, I really feel that.
Well, I think I 100% agree. And then some athletes have not been built to deal with COVID, right? When you look at it, like some of these athletes are, and I think the ones that have been brought up the right way, and I always come back to parenting because, the athletes that you meet at 13, 14, 15, you have a huge impact on them. There's no doubt about it. But how much of a bigger impact do those parents have getting them to 13, 14, 15, right? Like you see kids that come in that are good kids, pleases, thank yous, they're appreciative. And then you see other kids come in and they're just privileged and they expect everything and they're rude. And you're like, they're really both really good players. They're both really good athletes. They both kind of technically are pretty close, but this kid's way better than the other one just by attitude. And then why does that happen? Well, it's not because his school teacher in grade 3 was rude to him. It's because of the way he's been raised the whole time. So I think for parents, we got to, we talk about looking ourselves in the mirror. We got to look ourselves in the mirror and say, what are we doing? How are we doing with our kids? Like, how are we raising them? Are we creating good people? And I think that's a massive, massive piece of our athletes becoming good athletes.
And it'd be interesting to track basically, right? Like if you followed those two types of kids that you're talking about, if you found them like at 7, 8 years old, example, and you tracked where they were, like example at 20 and then 25 and then 30, I'd be super interested to see how that kind of played out. Basically, I'd be super interested to see.
Totally. And some of the kids that are, maybe, I don't want to say tough upbringing at all, but maybe a softer upbringing or a tough upbringing or whatever, kind of like a little bit handicapped, whether they had parents that were loaded and gave them everything and were super privileged and super, whether it was that type of player or it was a player that comes from nothing, had a hard life, saw some stuff he shouldn't have seen at 5 years old, 6 years old. You know what I mean? So they're coming in a little bit handicapped. Well, those kids can turn around. They meet someone like you and the mentors them a little bit and holds them accountable and changes their view on stuff. No, make your bed in the morning like that. The impact that a guy like you can have with a kid for 3 years or 4 years or a good coach can have is huge on some of these kids to kind of flip it around a little bit.
And I've seen that in education, man. It's crazy when I'm teaching where teachers will just kind of give it to some kids in class. And I sit there for some of my colleagues and I sit there and look like, you have no idea. You lived in this like house with mom and dad the entire time and they never got separated and you had this when you wanted it and and you went to university and everything was cool. Like you didn't live on a park bench because this happened. You didn't have to go to the soup kitchen. You did I see some of my colleagues, I'm like, just give your head a shake, man. And I remember going to teachers college for myself. I'm like, when I'm in the four walls with those kids, I got to make them smile. I got to make them laugh because I have no idea what their lifestyles are like at home. Yeah. I have no idea. And that's why it's hard sometimes to keep a kid accountable. And that's why getting to know your players, like we talked about the text, it's so important to get to know your clients, your teammates, whatever, all of the above, basically, because you just know what makes them tick and doesn't tick. I just talked about my catchers yesterday. We had a catchers meeting and we're like, we got to get to know the pitchers very, very well. Some of the pitchers might need a kick in the ass. Some of them might need some stroking. Some of them might need this. So we literally, as a staff yesterday, so I'm the catching coordinator and I worked with the catchers yesterday, about 10 of us. And we started naming some pitchers like, hey, when Billy's pitching, how do you think we would handle him if he's going through some adversity? Oh man, he's a hothead, so we maybe would do this. This guy, we would handle it this way. You just got to get to know your clientele, basically. And same thing in education and teaching and wherever the case may be. So there's tough love in there, but at the same time, it's like I give you a kick in the ass, but then I give you, when the class is over, it's like, hey man, if you need anything, you make sure you come see me, right? It's to find that balance where the case may be. It's not a perfect art, but anyway, I think it works, and I think the kids appreciate it.
I think it's huge, man. I think getting to know your players is massive. Getting players to know players as well. I mean, I guarantee there's teams right now, baseball teams, hockey teams. You can go on right now. I know it's a weird year. Let's just say a normal year, and you can ask little Billy to tell me 5 things about Johnny. He wouldn't know 5 things, played with the kid for 2 years. It's like, how is that possible? Like, and I blame the coaches for that a little bit, but you need to get to know your players. There's no doubt. But as a coach, even get to know your players, man. Ask them if they have a dog, they have a cat. How are mom and dad? Or, you don't have to get too intrusive, but you can always ask questions, and that gives you a little bit of ammunition too when you're talking to them about something. And on the other side of it, the better you get to know your players, that one player, he can take an ass lick, and you can give him a bunch of, or a bit of a whip, and you can yell at him, and he's gonna respond. The other player, you do the same thing too, he's gonna shut down. So you're right. You need to know, how to maybe give some high fives and maybe, give some good talks too. But I think it's huge to know your guys.
Like I got 2 kids on my team that have been through some stuff right now. So one of them on one of the teams I coach, kid had cancer, brain cancer, man, cancer. No way. You know what I mean? The kid's 13 years old, man. He had this 2 years ago. He's fought it. He was a hockey player / baseball player. He's just a great athlete, basically. And I'm like, so I sat and, I've had some conversations with him. I had some conversations more with mom and dad, and the stuff that they just appreciate that much more now that I'm like, we got to do this, that, and the other. And they're just like, it's not really that important. Yeah. Not that they're taken away from the sport. They're just things that you don't take things for granted anymore. But we're doing these, I do some accountability exercises. So we'll do I call them Voyager push-ups, Voyager jacks. So everything is synchronized, right? You got 12, 14 dudes just kind of doing everything together. Push-ups. Remember we did these for soccer at Heritage, right? You do push-ups on the way down and on the way up. So, for me, that stuff is coming back around. So I'm trying to teach that team concept. And the guys of this age group, it's my 14U group. So there's 12, 13, 14-year-olds on the team and struggling with the push-ups. So I'm talking back to this kid who had cancer, and he can't even do the push-ups anymore because we're at push-up, God knows whatever. We had to do it over and over and over and over and over. And I don't know who's watching it from the outside. And if they're sitting there thinking, man, I'm looking for perfection, I don't give a shit about perfection. I'm more worried about, I'm more concerned about the process. Who's going to give up? That is way more important to me than if we're going to get this right.
Yeah.
So this kid here, basically, he couldn't even do it anymore. But he was on one arm trying to push himself up. He went to 2 knees just to make sure he was banging him out. And knowing the stuff he went through in life, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, this kid will not quit. Like, how do you not take a kid like that on your team? How do you not go through a wall for a kid like that? You know what I mean? Like, the kids teach us so many things, man. It's just so much resilience. Kids that get bullied at school have to change from one school to the other. Like, this team has so many different, one kid, both legs broken last ATV accident, broke both his legs basically. He's kind of rehabbing, coming back with the boys. So like keeping him involved and engaged and stuff like that. So man, I just love sports and that team environment. You can't get that anywhere else. I don't think you can anyway.
But it's also, I mean, you've created a culture there, right? You created, and you've done this over years. It hasn't just been happened by accident, but a lot of who you are and stuff. But when players jump in and they're part of that program that you have, they're part of a culture. Right. They're part of and that comes from your older guys. It obviously comes from the top, from you and your coaches and stuff. But the older guys are loving it. The guys that have been with you for a couple of years know it. It was like when we were in gym class and JG and I were in the same high school, and we had about 4 or 5 really good athletes, that were in our gym classes a lot. And obviously we were athletes, so we loved gym class. But our gym teacher was a very impactful person on, I think, JG in my life, Monsieur Ron Zubik, an awesome guy. But I remember like 50 push-ups. If you did, his only rule was don't do anything I don't ask you to do. So for sure, day 1, you'd go and grab a basketball before he told you to go grab a basketball because you wanted to fire a ball across the gym. And he'd just look at you and it was all French. He'd be 5 out. So he'd be 50 and you just go down and do 50 push-ups. But any of the new kids that came in, that first time they said that he said that to them, like, look at him like, what, 50 what? Like, and for us, we'd be like, dude, just get down and do them. It might take you an hour, but just get down and do them. But it was such a, it was, I love it. First of all, it was such an easy message, but that was the culture, man. You knew, and how quick, the guys straighten out, and
oh, yeah.
Like, especially the top end athletes in those groups, we hardly did 50 push-ups because we knew that we're going to be able to play with the balls. We're going to be able to play tackle rugby. We're going to be able to do all the stuff we want to do. Just listen, pay attention. Let's go,
It's I just had something you were talking about too with Zubik and accountability and the push and stuff, man. I just had a good thought with that. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that back up because those were, that's what it was. So I was on a podcast. I think I was telling that yesterday, and I'm still trying to play that game in my head. So the guy kind of gives me, hey, JG, this is what we have for descriptions. So he's like, you did stuff with Baseball Canada. You helped, you're one of the coaches of Team Ontario. You played college baseball here, blah, blah, blah. He goes, and you're running the Voyageurs, program. And I'm this is the first time I say this out loud. I told my wife this when it happened, but when he read all through everything basically, and he said like the 18U Voyageurs and 14U or the Voyageur program, everything else stuck out to me because you're like Team Ontario, like you walk around like, yeah, man, I helped coach Team Ontario. You kind of walk out like your chest a little bit up. Got to my ego myself because I'm like, how the hell do you not take pride in the thing like you helped to raise? It's like your kid basically. Like it's like that thing you almost want to white out in your resume, but everything else looks good. So I'm still trying to overcome that because I'm glad you said like the culture because that's exactly what we're trying to create, not on purpose, but a culture. And then when I'm going wherever the hell I go with this stuff is like when that's on the resume, that's on something, it means something. So I'm still trying to. I guess because when it's yours, you don't see it the same way other people see it. I don't know, man.
Yeah, and I mean, we're similar. I think I'm not really that good at taking compliments or and you're the same. But at the end of the day, like you've created something in Sudbury that, in Northern Ontario, really there's not a lot of that up there for baseball, number one. And I think even in general, there's not a lot of like real professionals doing skills and putting teams together for a group of athletes in that sport. I mean, there is, but you know what I mean? Like it's not as prevalent as what you're going to see in Toronto or Ottawa, these big cities, and so for you doing that, number one, you're a bit of a, I'm going to use this term lightly, but a bit of a pioneer up there where you're kind of like starting something that no one has ever really done up there. And you've done a good job of it. And it wouldn't still be around if it wasn't good, if the culture wasn't good. You know what I mean? I think that's one of the things where there's either a massive lack of it and there's no other way to get it, which there are other places people can get outlets for it, or you've done a really good job and people are gravitating towards you because the culture's good and the product's good and the kids are coming out of it. Not even necessarily, getting full scholarships and things like that. But I think being better kids, being more athletic, being better fit, being more accountable. And I think those are the big things. I know for me as a parent now, having young kids, that's what I'm looking for in a program. I want someone who's going to keep my kids accountable, who's going to care about my kids. And yes, 100%, they've got to make money to keep lights on and you're going to have to pay for things. That's fine. I have no issues with that. But man, if my kid loves it and he's more respectful and he's getting a good message there and he's being held accountable, I'm in. I'm in. I think it's awesome.
I got a question for you too, actually. I want to talk about keeping a kid in a program. I'm writing my notes down here. Mm-hmm. The other question is like, do you still coach the way you were coached? And if you do, why? And if you don't, why not?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think when I came up, coaching was a little bit different. It was a little bit more old school. You'd still have coaches coming in, snapping, yelling. I had some great coaches along the way, but like awesome coaches. And I had some new age coaches that were kind of trending a little bit in a newer way. I think realistically, I've taken things from a lot of the coaches I've coached with and played for that I really liked, things that I really didn't like. But I think overall, I'm very much, I think I'm very stern. I think I'm hard on my players, especially my elite players, as far as accountability. You don't have to be awesome or perfect, but I want you to give it. I want you to try. I want you to at least put a foot forward. So I think I'm hard on players that way. But the one thing I've really done over the last bunch of years is I could give you could mess up 6 passes in a row and I come in and I'm done. Like I've told you 3 times to tighten this up and you're not tightening it up. So I'll get mad at you and I'll tell you to wake up and, get your head out of your ass and I'll give it to you. But 10 seconds after I'm done doing that, there's no grudge. I'm not mad at you for the rest of the practice. You could do something good the next shift or the next play or the next drill, and I'll come over to you and like, hey JG, good job. That looked awesome, man. Wait, so I hated when coaches would get mad at a practice and then that'd be it. You lose your coach for the whole thing and you're gonna get bagged. Practice sucks. He's mad. He's pissed off. You know what I mean? I hated that. So there's a lot of little things that I've taken from other players or other coaches or other people I played for or with or against, and just trying to use that and implement that into kind of my coaching philosophies or how I approach kids or players. You know what I mean? So I think that's been kind of the big thing for me for sure. But yeah, I think that's the big thing for me is kind of taking little pieces from a lot of different people, and try to implement that in my coaching style. What about you?
Same thing, like, because you talked about like earlier, you mentioned the professional part. Like, to me, if I coached the way I was coached, I'd be in the ice age, basically. Yeah. Like you, I took something from everyone and so on and so forth, but like the game has changed, times have changed, and there's a whole debate. The kids have changed, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole other conversation. But like, just things have changed. Some things there are staples in things and way of doing things. But, I don't think I could be coaching kids now the way I was coached, not in a negative way. I'll take, like you said, some of those things, but you need to stay current what's going on. If there's some new technology, if there's a different way of doing things, like I'll use for us for catching. Now the new wave basically of catching is, catching off one knee now, right?
Okay.
One knee down and receiving, and instead of being in the traditional way. And as someone who grew up with, the primary and secondary, like the old school way of catching, which was still normal a few years ago. So you got to grasp things. And for me personally, I got to know why we're doing it. I'm not jumping on the next fad just to jump on the next fad because that's what's most popular on Facebook and Twitter and, TSN's talking about wherever the case may be, because they'll jump to a new story the next day, man. Like people got to realize that stuff. Like it just turns over. They need stories to write too. So just because it's on there doesn't mean it's the best thing ever. Anyway, that's another, don't get me going on that stuff. So what I've done for myself for that part is on the catching perspective, because I've dug more into that now because I've been able to surround myself with really good people who take care of pitching now, who take care of our strength and conditioning, who take care of where when I first started, I was like the strength and conditioning coach, the pitching coach, the hitting coach, the everything. So I've been so fortunate enough now to surround myself with really good people that I trust that can take care of those things. But yeah, sorry, back to the catching. So now I teach kind of all of the above. I take video, we do stats on everything basically, and then the kid finds out what works for him, right? Not what JG thinks is the best thing since sliced bread and what worked for me, because what worked for me might not work for this kid, might be better for this kid. So is a lot more work 100%. But again, as a parent, wouldn't you want to go to somebody who's going to diversify themselves and do what's best for your kid, not what they think is the best thing? My personal opinion.
No, I think that's great, man. I think that's, And you're right. I think we need to morph with the times and change with the times, because that is how you're going to stay relevant. If not, you're, like you said, you're going to be in the ice ages. You're going to be behind the curve. I think the other thing too, you said in there about our kids are different. Of course our kids are different. I mean, we were different than our parents. You know what I mean? I didn't smoke at 17 years old like most of my dad and his buddies did. You know what I mean? I was, like it was different times, and I think, yeah, we all, the big knock now is our kids are so soft. Our youth is so soft. Yeah, maybe they are a little bit. I think they're more resilient in other ways. They're way more resourceful than you and I were.
Oh man.
Right? Like they can figure stuff out in a minute with the way with the resources they have.
Yeah.
So there's some positives and negatives with every generation, I think. And I think it's up to us as coaches to figure out how to touch with this generation, how to you can't yell and scream at a kid now, but the odd few you can, but I mean, for the most part you can't. So how do you relate to them? How do you get talking to them,
I'm watching March Madness yesterday, and Michigan State's coach, he got into it with a player. They're going into the locker room, and he grabs the kid by the jersey and kind of pulls him, and they still going at each other basically. And he grabbed him again, and the cameras are on it, and they're showing this stuff, whatever the case may be. Like, that would have been like when we were playing, wouldn't even have watched it, because it would have been like that happens every single second. I haven't even watched social media or TV today to kind of find out how that played out, but that thing's going to get blown up like crazy, basically.
Yeah.
And I understand both sides of it, but that's the stuff you and I, and I'm sure a lot of others have grew up around. Doesn't make it right. Don't get me wrong, but holding people accountable. What? So we're going to sit them. We're going to yell at them instead. We're going to give them the silent treatment. Anyways.
Yeah. But for that case, so for that guy, for that situation, okay, so that Michigan situation, for any parent out there, before you go to post on social media or you go to pass judgment on what happened there, we don't know what happened there. We don't know that relationship. So for instance, have you ever grabbed your son by the winter coat and pulled him and threw him in the truck? I have. Have you ever grabbed your daughter by the t-shirt? You don't have a daughter, I do, but grabbed your daughter by the t-shirt and said, listen to me. I have done it. So now you're coaching a player. You've had him for 2 years, 3 years, and he's an awesome player. But when he gets hot and he's disrespectful. You're trying to talk to him and he's walking away from you. And you're mad at him and you want to get a point across to him and he's walking away from you and you're getting more hot. So you grab him by the jersey. Now I'm not saying that's right and you're in the public eye, but at the end of the day, this happens. Is that abuse? Is that bullying? No, man. It's you grabbing someone to get their attention and someone that you know well. You know what I mean? So to your point, is it probably going to get blown out of proportion? 100%. I think, somebody right now on social media probably saying that he's being abusive and, oh my God, this is just a kid, for sure. But we don't know the context of what's going on. We don't know that relationship. We don't know. So there's so many other things that go into it,
Yeah. And the thing is, too, man, at 4-year schools like that, even JUCOs, whatever the case may be, the 4-year, that's a family, man. We talked about this earlier. You're together 24/7, practicing 6-7 days a week. You're not going to agree every single time, but that again is the fun part, man. That's part of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make an assumption on that. They got into where the case may be. Today they're probably giving hugs and so on and so forth. It is what it is. But the media is going to blow it up probably. So where they're going to maybe want to hate each other because the media said this and it was this. Anyways, this is just, it's crazy, man. It's craziness.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too, even being a coach and dealing with kids and male, female athletes, all this stuff. I mean, tell me now compared to 5-10 years ago, how much more sensitive are you to how you touch a player, how you talk to a player, how you text a player? It's all stuff that maybe 5 years ago we wouldn't even think about much, or 10 years ago. But now it's man, I always, pretty much everything I do, I feel like I'm on camera sometimes. And I'm hard on guys and I'm hard on kids and I'm very honest with parents about it and stuff. But, when I say hard, I don't mean anything I just want to keep them accountable. Don't be disrespectful. Say hello, say please and thank you. You know what I mean? So I think, but man, yeah, I'm definitely way more sensitive or way more, I guess, aware of what I'm doing.
For a lesson on time, it's 5:00. You got to pick up your kids. They're going to be a half hour late. I'll just give the kid a ride home. That's not happening. You know what I mean? Just
totally.
Those things that you just never even thought of before. That's all good. And just, no.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is nuts, man. And a lot of it has to do with not even the kid or his parents or his family or you, but it's some random taking a video of you getting in a car with a kid and be like, oh my God, look at right? It's crazy, man. You get into a little scuffle with your daughter or son at the mall. You're just kind of talking loud to them or whatever, or pointing your finger at them. And somebody, not that we're anybody, so it's not like it's going to blow up, but who knows? So many videos you doing something and all of a sudden it gets taken out of context and wow. So yeah, you're definitely on more pins and needles than we were before for sure.
It's funny. I'm talking to a group of university students from Laurentian on Monday about risk management. Their teacher asked me to talk to their class just from a coaching perspective, a teacher perspective, risk management. And this is exactly the type of stuff that we're going to be talking about, even more with COVID, all the protocols and stuff. But man, how times have changed in regards to that. Everything's about covering your ass.
Yeah.
Everything. And I get, and it's definitely for a reason. But on the flip side, it's a little sad on some of this stuff at the same time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's so optically driven that, things are done a certain way just so optically it looks good. No one really cares if it's the right thing or wrong thing. It's just as long as it looks okay and no one gets hurt and no one gets their feelings hurt, and we'll be okay. Yeah, it's brutal, man. Yeah. I'm all about hurting feelings and get my feelings hurt, right? That makes us stronger, man. That's what we need. A little bit of verbal abuse every once in a while.
Attaboy.
Yeah, exactly. So how are things going with you guys now as far as when lockdown gets lifted? You'll be able to kind of roll through. You've got your team set up. All the boys are kind of ready to go as far as training and getting ready to kind of hit the ground running when you guys get going?
Yeah. So right now, because of the lockdown 2 weeks, so I'll walk you through our week. So Sunday, we'll do, what's Sunday? Sunday is fitness. No, it's not. Oh, Sunday is strategies. So we're closer to our season now. So I've implemented a program for strategy. So like, bunt defense, cut off, like all the strategic part of basically the sport. So I introduced that this week because, again, like I said, we're close to our season for us and Teach His Own. During the winter, we're all about individual training. So we're trying to make the individual better. But now that we're getting closer to the season, we have to have more team concepts in play. So Sundays we'll do strategies. Mondays we do mental performance. So we do an hour with myself and do mental performance stuff. And then we half hour with Brian Kane, who comes in from Arizona and talks to our kids for about a half hour. That gets us to Tuesday, which is pitchers and infielders. Wednesdays is fitness. Thursdays is catchers and outfielders. Friday, the kids are off. Saturday is hitting and fitness. Like that's our week on lockdown. And it's some additional stuff. Make sure you're watching this video. Make sure, I've learned a bunch of different things now with Google Forms, surveys, like I told you, like Kahoot. So keeping other engagement, what'd you think of the practice? Get the kids feedback on some stuff, send them a little fired up videos of some different things, some quotes, those types of things to kind of keep them engaged. Because like I told you earlier, May 1st is May 1st. The league's not saying like, hey, you're on lockdown, so we're going to back things up. So I'm really trying to harp on them. And the weather's pretty good here. It's, it's double digits until Monday or Tuesday. So get outside, throw with somebody, mom, dad, whoever it is, go throw, get outside, give them some programming when they are going to throw. This is what we're looking for you to do. Because again, they need some guidelines, right? They would just throw till their arms fell off. Basically. And that's what I told them. Like, I love where your heads are at, but we got to make sure we're being safe. So then you're ready to go May 1st and you can actually feel your arm and those types of things. So I think we're going to be good to go. I'm super excited about it because I'm really feeling for the first time in a long time that we'll be able to match up. When I say match up, maybe not talent for talent, maybe, I don't know. But as far as like where the development and all those things, all the cards are on the table, even with, for the first time, I think in a long time with Southern Ontario, where, if I'm going to play the London Badgers that weekend, we're there, we've probably had the same amount of time either on a diamond or in a training facility, so on and so forth, where we used to be way behind the curve. I think we're closing that gap more and more. So I'm excited about that.
Which is huge, right? Because you're right, Southern Ontario, and then you go south of the border even more. They got more access to training facilities, indoor fields, indoor batting cages, where Sudbury didn't have any of that stuff. Well, and now they do.
We have James Jerome, so that got built in 2010. I think it was 2010 when the Ontario Summer Games here. So it's a turf soccer field. So we can have access to that about in April. So like, I'm calling the city, booking it for baseball practices. Like, baseball practice, where would you be on baseball? It's for soccer and football. Like, man, it's turf. I can get on turf, and if I can hit ground balls, I can hit fly balls, and my guys can run. I want to be on it. But again, people just think like this way. They don't think outside that box. Soccer means other things. This means other things. So that's exactly what you have to do. You have to literally think outside the box to be able to get to the point where you want to get to.
Oh yeah, totally. And that's how stuff like you're like you've created in Sudbury ends up working, right? Because I'm sure the first couple of times it was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. No. And if you keep taking no's and say, yeah, you're right, I'll just forget about it, then you're never going to go anywhere, right? But you obviously push through a lot of hurdles to get to where you are now and have your own facility and have an indoor space for guys to hit and pitch and and throw and all that kind of stuff, which is huge, man, for the baseball community, no doubt.
I still remember like the little kids team. We hosted a Sault Ste. Marie one weekend. I said, "Hey, we're going to play a game on the turf." Like, what are you talking about? And the city was like bucking it for a little bit, and they gave in. I rented like snow fencing basically from like whatever company is locally. Put some snow fencing because the field's way smaller. The soccer field would fit a little kid's diamond.
Right.
Put some snow fencing in. Put a couple of benches for the teams, and the kids literally played a baseball game on turf, a full turfed field. Basically.
That's cool.
Right? Like you just gotta, and the kids loved it. Nice bounces.
Yeah.
No potholes, any of that stuff. You just got to be willing to like give it opportunities. And anyway, you just got to think outside the box again, man. And kids loved it. Great experience.
Oh, it's cool, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time. I don't want to take up too much more, but one thing I want to touch on, because you're really big on this, and I know helped a lot of different athletes, and it's a big part of your program, but the mental part of the game. I've had other mental performance coaches on here before that have talked about, your mind's like a muscle. You got to work it. You got to do things to make it stronger, make it better, make it more resilient. What are some of the things that you do with your athletes in order to help them have a little more resiliency or have a little bit more, athletic performance to enhance that by using their mind? What are some of the things or some of the stuff that you kind of go through with them?
Man, that's a whole episode to itself. If I can share a screen, and if I could share a screen here, I could show you a couple of different things that we do. Man, like off the top of my head, I'll pick like example hitting. Okay. So our stations, we have stuff for hitting. So I use the terminology of signal lights. Okay. So when green, you're going through green, everything is good. When you're going through yellow, things are starting to slip, so on and so forth. And in red, like basically shit has hit the fan basically, and you're going through some adversity, like a bad call from an umpire, a pitch you think you should have hit, those types of things. So I literally painted plates. I got away from the yellow and red for some of our younger guys. I'm just like, it's red. So I literally painted green plates. I painted red plates. I put them up in hitting stations. So like, kids hitting off a tee, another putting it on it. The third kid is basically working through his green routine. In another cage, a kid is working on his red routine, right? So green is just simply everything is good. So I just took a pitch, boom, it's good. I'm in control, everything. I step out, look for my signs, find a focal point on my bat. And, even for my kid, I had him paint, got the company B45 to paint a green dot on his bat, because green means good, green, cool. Everything, the process. So you kind of look at that spot. And then the last thought that goes through your head is basically, because you can't tell someone don't think of anything, because we always think of something, right? Because if you think of nothing, everything is coming through there. So then it's that last positive thought of whatever we've been working on. It could be drive, see the ball, hit the ball, see the ball, hit the ball. Whatever that positive command is, the last thing that's going through your mind before the pitch comes. If you're going in red, basically, we talk about physical releases, okay? And I've heard Kane work with some of the NHL players. Brian Kane worked with some of the NHL players when I was with him in Arizona. So it was pretty cool. They use sometimes like stuff taped on their sticks, their shoelaces. Like some of them have green shoelaces, skate laces, sorry. Talking your terminology here. Put them in green basically, because they know they're always trying to be in green lights, right? They tape their stick with green or this, that, and the other. Some guys, it's logos on the boards that they go to when shit's hitting the fan. A certain logo is a release. A certain logo is this. Like in baseball, right field foul pole, when you look at it, means release. Or left field foul pole, if you want, left field, let it go. Those types of things are kind of some releases. Cool. So when you go back to start red and some physical releases, so you got a bad call, wherever the case may be. So this time you step out, check your signs, and then you physically do something. So your batting gloves, you unvelcro, so you're releasing it. You can also grab some dirt, squeeze the shit out of the dirt, and when you let it go, you've physically released it. You clean out the batter's box. Now we're starting with a new clean slate, basically. So you're kind of giving these kids mechanisms. And someone asked me yesterday in the podcast, like, well, what's too young of an age? I don't think there's too young of an age, right? If the parents are going to know what to tell them, so on and so forth. I really, really, really believe there's no too young of an age to be able to talk about these types of things and put them into place some way, shape, or form. It's like, the biggest part is like when a kid goes from the on deck circle to when he hits. Okay. That's when everything goes through his head. I'm 0 for 4. I'm 0 for 3. My mom's upset with me. My dad, I'm having a great game. And we just kind of send them up there like with nothing. Yeah. We need to arm them with something. So when shit hits the fan, or when things are going good, or when the pressure hits, or when you're up there in a key situation, you don't let your emotions get in the way, man. And people call them superstitions, wherever the case may be. Those are the things that kind of keep you in check, basically, because when it's going nuts and you're in a championship game and, you know, everything, shit's hitting the fan, wherever the case may be, you go to your routine, man. You don't go to like, if I get this hit, my team's going to be so happy. If I fail, I'm going to be the biggest loser. And, you know, someone's going to say something about me on Twitter. You go to your routines. And if you go to your routines, the other stuff will take care of itself. Like, it doesn't dictate you as a person. You stick to your routines. And I'm a huge believer, and it's a staple, to be honest with you, in our program. And I think we're going to be successful for it. And if not, we'll be successful in life anyways, because the kids are going to be armed on how to deal with failures and successes. And those are just a couple examples I'm giving you.
I love it, man. No, I'll probably look at baseball a little differently, because I noticed tons of hitters undoing their glove or doing something. I've never thought twice about it, but now to your point, sometimes they do it almost after every pitch. And to you, it's probably like that reset, or they have something that there's a reason why they're doing it, obviously, right? I've seen players grab sand before, like you're saying, and, you know, throw it off, wipe it on their pants, whatever. But those, hats off, things like that. Like, those are all.
I've even taken that one to the next level, right? So there's a company we use, Puka, and the reason the hat's okay, I'm not trying to downplay them. The hat's okay, but what I liked about them, you can kind of do whatever you want to your hat. So I had the kids pick words for them, like positive words for them. So I got the company to stitch in all the way in the seams of the hat. So when the kid takes off his hat, we had stuff like 200 feet at a time, right? Cool. When you're driving, you can only see 200 feet at a time. You can't talk about championship. You can't talk about the last out of the game. We can only deal with 200 feet at a time. So we put 200 feet at a time. Ape, you know, you can only, your attitude, your performance, and your effort. That's the only thing you can control. So ape is inside of the one pitch warrior. All those types of things are in the kids' hats. When they take their hats off, could be one word in there that means something to them. They'll kind of have a look, take the deep breath, boom, let's go back. When you put it back in, for me, when I tell them you're locking back in, you put it in, it's lock and load time now. When they carry their bats, they carry it by the barrel. The barrel is where you want to hit the ball. Right. So then that's the association from the brain to the barrel. That's where I want to hit. And on the flip side, I go a little caveman with them. I said, when you walk from the batter's the on deck circle to the plate, you carry that like you're a caveman and you're going to go kill some shit. Basically, you carry it around like a caveman. You walk in there with some swagger. And if you get out, you get out. You walk away with the same swagger when you walked up there, because you'll get them the next time. Not like feeling bad and sorry for yourself and bad body language, man. You gotta give them, arm them with the tools, man. I get fired up when I talk about this, and I'm just giving you a little bit of sneak peek, but it's where it's at.
Dude, I'm stoked right now, man. I'm going to do some push-ups right now. I'm pumped. I'm picking up baseball at 43. I'm in. Let's go. No, I love it, man. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. And I think, man, the mental part of the game is such. We always talk about this, and it's almost like, it's always just talked about and almost like grazed over, you know. And some people do dive into it. Don't get me wrong. You're doing an excellent job of doing it, and I'm guilty of this, of just like, the mental part of the game's huge. It's 80%, all but then how much do you work on it? How much do you focus on it? Right. And I think for any player out there, getting an opportunity to work on this on your own, like you would your flexibility or your mobility or your hitting, like shooting pucks in your driveway, well, take 10, 15 minutes on the mental part of the game, learn some, I love that. Like, learn some little things that you can do to reset yourself, and the stuff, hockey players are renowned for writing little things on their stick. When I played, I used to always put, don't forget where you came from. And I was from Sudbury, Ontario, and I loved it up there. And like, don't forget where you came from. Don't get too big for your britches, right? Like, having a little saying on your stick or on your skate or on your bat or on your hat, those are awesome, man. And it kind of just resets you a little bit, and I think, man, the more you can arm your players with those and your athletes with these types of little practices, I think the better off they're going to be, for sure.
It's funny you say, don't forget where you came from. Like, when you're in Alabama at the time, I was in Texas, and what I had basically for me was like boys back home. It was just like same thing as you. It was like, just don't forget where you came from. Basically, that's all it was. It was like boys back home. You know what I mean?
Love it.
Some of them would be here, you're here, so you better grind your shit out.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, there's just so many different ways. And again, you got to arm them, and we talk about it, and some of them have it at home. Some of them have the mechanisms, but it's just like a go-to, man. It's just a go-to. And like I told you, I had a player call me last week, like when he said the worst 3 innings of his life. And he's like, man, I don't know what to do, so on and so forth. So we talked a little bit, and I gave him kind of some routines to go through, and a quick routine for people that are at home, basically. So one is like a 6-2-8. So you inhale for 6, pause for 2, and you let it go for 8. You'll find out, like, you're like, I don't have that much breath, or I can't let go of that much air. Yes, you can. So you do that for probably 2-3 minutes. Then you kind of do a body scan where you kind of close your eyes and you kind of let go of your feet, then your ankles, then your shins, then your knees, then your quads and your hamstrings. You kind of work all the way up to your body, kind of let things go. And then I go for like 2-3 minutes about, your performance. What are you going to do in your next performance? Then I go like 2-3 minutes talking about some past successes. I call it a cookie jar. Okay. I stole that from, I can't remember his name, Navy SEAL guy. But a cookie jar, all the awesome things you've ever done. I don't care what level you're at. Basically you've done, if you're still playing a sport, you've done some pretty good things somewhere. So putting things in your cookie jar, like, for Dwayne, man, when I scored that hat trick against so on and so forth, when I got, I went to school. I was in Alabama when I played pro, when I did this, when I did that. You put that stuff in your cookie jar and you pull that out basically when you need it. When you're 0 for whatever, you haven't scored points in like 5-6 games, you go to your cookie jar, you pull that out. You're like, yeah, man, I made that team. Yeah, man, I was away from home and I grinded out. Yeah, I did that. So it kind of reinforces it. And you kind of keep telling yourself those types of things. Then for the last 2-3 minutes, basically you just, how are you going to dominate the next performance and what are you going to do? So I'll kind of have players go through that. Like if we play Saturday, go through that Friday night. When you wake up, go through that on Saturday morning. Before you go to bed on Sunday, you make sure you go through that stuff again. Like you need that positive reinforcement. And you could throughout the weekend be putting more and more stuff in your cookie jar if you have good performances, because you're going to have bad ones. But we got to remember, like, sports are a negative setting. You're not going to score points every single night. So like, are you going to get pride from having a great shift? Those types of things. Break it down smaller.
Oh, I think it's great because I think there's so much negative self-talk that goes on. And like, even when you're saying at the baseball, you're sitting at the plate and you're ready to hit, and like the next thought's got to be like, okay, crush the ball or whatever it is, right? I'd be up there being like, don't miss this. And then sure enough, what's going to happen? You're struck out, right? Or you're standing over a golf ball playing golf, like, don't hit the water. Like the worst thoughts, and even for young players, you miss, you get struck out. You're like, I suck. You miss a shot. Like, I'm brutal. And that self-talk, I think, is terrible. Go ahead.
And I'm a huge, like, I read so much information on the brain. I just love the brain. I love sports mental performance, so on. But the thing, like, you got to remember, our brain sees in pictures, it doesn't see in words. Okay. So our brain sees in pictures, it doesn't see in words. So when you say don't miss the ball, our brain does not have a picture of don't. It's not programmed to see don't, but it sees ball. You know what I mean? So like, don't swing at a high pitch. You think high pitch. Don't swing and miss. It hears swing and miss, right? You don't hear the negative command. The body only hears those things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, don't think of a pink elephant. Like, everyone uses that one. Don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a pink elephant. Your brain doesn't hear the don't, man. It just literally has a picture of things. And the example I like using with players is like, I want you to think of a horse. Go ahead. Think of a horse.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what color was your horse? Dwayne, for example.
Mine was white. White.
Okay. So, but nobody sees horse, HORSE. We do not see in words, man. We see in pictures. That's how our brain works. So we literally have to give ourselves kind of screenshots. And now I'm trying to produce something for our players of like, I'll take a screenshot of Labatt Park in London. Like, I'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks to send to all the players that were playing the opening weekend in London. I want them to see what it looks like to be, because some of them will be their first time at that park. I want them to see what that park looks like. I want them to find their focal points before they get there. Don't ever let the first time be the first time, right? Because then that's when the jitters and the excitement and all that stuff. Know ahead of time what the hell's going on. So again, don't let the first time be the first time.
That's cool. I like that a lot. Yeah, that's a great idea. Even I'm just thinking putting this into context with hockey as well, like taking a picture of the rink and showing your boys, this is the arena we're going to be pulling up to. This is the ice sheet. If you can get inside, like, not that you have to physically be there, because now with video and pictures and there's, you know what I mean? You can get some screenshots of a rink or the rink and show them what you're getting yourself into, which I think is cool. Because so many times, I'm sure you did too, as a youngster, you'd walk into the rink, the first 15 minutes being at the rink, you're like looking around, checking stuff out, so you're already not behind, but you're already wasted some time, kind of observing rather than having that already done beforehand.
Yeah. I got that from, there's a buddy of mine who coached the women's national team for Team Canada. So they'd have to go play like, in Japan and China and all these other places. So he knew somebody there, like, hey, can you take a video of the hotel? Can you take some video of, the field, So they'd have a meeting as a team and he'd show them all the stuff. So like when they got there, it wasn't the first time they got to see what their accommodations look like. Make sure you bring this, make sure you have this because it looks like this, and so on and so forth. The bench is this size. We're on this side of the rink instead of that side of the rink. Our dress room is going to be here instead of there. Like, even from the coaching perspective, like, if you don't prepare, you're preparing to fail. It's kind of that same concept.
Yeah.
Because the more we can feel at home, basically, right? We heard about all the time, Olympic athletes bringing their beds from home or wherever they're training from, to bring them to the Olympic Village. The more you can feel at home, the more comfortable you become. And that home field, home court advantage goes out the window.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. That's huge. Like you said, though, I mean, and I said this on the last pod, and I'm going to keep doing this. I want to keep having you on because I think you got a ton of knowledge. And obviously, you're in the trenches with sports, with elite athletes, working with, your own teams and other athletes and stuff. And it's always cool to kind of check in and just see how things are going. But I'd like to even dive a little bit more into the mental side of it. And even some of the stuff you said today is awesome. Some really cool tools that I think parents and players can use, and coaches, obviously, with their teams. But it'd be cool to even do more of a session on mental health or on the mental side of the game. I mean, if people want to reach out to you, because I know you do a lot of this on Zoom for teams and organizations and athletes. If people did want to reach out, where can they find you? Where are you kind of prominent right now on social media and stuff?
Email is probably the best bet right now. Like, I've started a mental performance business, let's say, but I've done a couple of Zooms with some teams from Toronto and some other types of things, but I'm trying to get into it a little bit more now. But just the best way to get a hold of me would be coachlarocque@gmail.com. Just shoot me an email to start, and we'll kind of get the ball rolling from there. But yeah, that's just kind of how things have been happening now. But yeah, I'd love to. And if I could next time we do this again, let me share a screen if that's a possibility.
100%. Totally. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I can walk us through, I think, some stuff that I think a game changer for some of our viewers.
No, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that sooner rather than later, because I think that'd be great. And I can even clip out some of the stuff with the screen share on it and put it up just as its own little thing, so people don't have to hear my voice and your voice the whole time, but they can grab some good snippets of it and some good information off it.
Right. Because now I'm at St. Charles College, where I started doing some stuff with the hockey program and the hockey team. They're with their Hockey Skills Academy, basically Hockey Canada. You came in right and spoke to them. So, but I'm interested on the flip side too, because I'd like some people in trenches like you in the profession. I'll talk about a little bit what I'm looking at in my field or fields, and then it'd be good, to have your perspective and say, yeah, well, we would look at it this way with our stick, or with the skates, or with goalies. I watch Washington's goalie, or whatever the case may be. What's his name again?
Oh, Holtby. He's in Vancouver now, though. Right? But
Bottle, he uses the water bottle, finds a small, like, goalies are like poster childs. They're like catchers in baseball, right? They're poster childs for, they have to have a short-term memory. So all the different type of mental performance skills they need to have. And you and I had talked about a young athlete from here locally that got drafted. And I know the Knights were looking at him, and we had talked about it, and had a couple of sessions with him, and just, what maybe people are looking for, those types of things, some resets, example, not leaning up against the post, basically between whistles, because you're showing some weakness, right? So Brian Kane works with like George St. Pierre, all these UFC guys, basically Kane works with them. So he shares that knowledge with us. And he talks about like guys, when they go into the corner from a fight, basically, he doesn't want them kind of like arms folded, or where, all these other, your hands are to the side, man. You always want to be in aggression. You always want to show good posture, good aggression, not like head hunched, wherever the case may be, like you're already toast and you're done. Even if you're feeling that way, you act differently than you feel.
It's funny, man. When I was younger playing, obviously, and I remember somebody saying to me at a young age, like, don't ever show that you're tired in practice. Like, especially as you get to more elite levels, like, don't be hunched over your shin pads, like, stand up, even though you're huffing and puffing and you want to go down on one knee, don't do it. And it's something that stuck with me, and I've tried to like implement that with the teams and the players I work with. Like, don't show weakness. Don't show that you're, and it's not a tough thing. It's just a mental thing. It's like, no, you're fine. You can battle through this. You don't need to go down on one knee. You don't need to leave the ice for a water break. Like, you're good. Like, you're fine, and I think that to me is more of a mental piece of just being mentally tough, being mentally strong. You know what I mean? And learning those things at a young age is huge.
I'm still doing that stuff right now, because like tendency, people say like when you fold your arms, basically, like it's not a welcoming and those types of things. So I tend to disagree with it, but that's fine. But I'm super conscious of it now, is basically back from hearing from Kane. And man, this is so comfortable, and I can just kind of sleep this way. And I fight myself all the time. Yeah. I'm like, no, man, you got to show big body language, arms to the side. Like, I'm even in bed, I don't even cross my legs. Like, as much as it's super comfortable, help me sleep. Because it's like, to me, it's all those little things. Like, I'm at school and there's 3 doors. I always take the first door to the left, because in my head, I'm like, I want to finish in first place, not in third place. Right? Because I'm always playing those mental games. Piece of garbage is on the ground. When I'm walking through the halls, pick it up and throw it. It's not my garbage. But the point is, like, if I'm willing to let little things go, I'll probably let go of the big things later on. So you got to take care of all the little things. People are always worried about the big things. No. Take care of the little things, and then the big things, then you're arming yourself to be ready to go for those bigger things later on.
Totally. No, 100%, man. Well, buddy, once again, man, I really, as a buddy, I love talking to you, number one, but I think you got a ton of, obviously, knowledge and some great information out there for the parents and players and coaches that are listening. So I really, really appreciate it. And best of luck getting out of lockdown, obviously. And we'll like I said, we'll do this again. We'll plan on doing it the next month or so.
Why would you have to finish that way? Good luck in lockdown. Why would you?
Oh,
finish
good
that
luck.
way?
Sorry, good luck getting out of lockdown up in the Rock, where it's just starting to get sunny. You guys are just getting out of your igloos right now, so it'll be good. It'll be good.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, I'll get the penguins out in a second. 1 second. Yeah, I'm almost done.
Yeah. No, man, hopefully things open back up for you guys and you can get rolling again, because obviously I'm sure the players are just itching to get back out there, and it'll be nice if the weather gets good and you guys can get outside. It'd be awesome.
Appreciate you doing this. It's great you're doing it and finding a way for yourself as entrepreneur, I'll call it, basically trying to get better all the time. And it seems like it's got a pretty good following. I love being on this, man. It's just like talking like two friends, just sitting by the deck, basically talking.
That's great.
But hopefully it affects and helps some people in a positive way at the same time.
Love it, buddy. All right, man. We'll be in touch for sure, man. Have a good night.
Hey, you as well. Take care.
Bye. To kind of raise that bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.